Hello and welcome back to another video. I mean, if this isn't your first video, then this is just welcome to the video. Ha! Sorry. In today's video, we are gonna take a look at schematics and get some sort of beginner idea of what they are and how to read them. And hopefully, by the end of this, the perfect world, you would know how to read schematics. But it's okay if you don't. But if you're on the way there and you feel like you're taking your first steps, that's great. And since we're doing pedals here and guitars, we are gonna use this book that I have right here, which I've had for super long and I've never opened, and now I did, and I realized it had a cheat sheet for symbols, schematic symbols. So we're going to use that because it's super convenient for me. And we're going to take a look at it together and just see if we can figure out how to read schematics. And yeah, that's it. It's going to be good. Let's jump into it and see what happens. And yeah, hopefully I'll be wiser. First of all, I just want to quickly say, I don't know if I can recommend this book because I don't know. It's hard to say. I've never used this for anything. I sort of just bought it and forgot about it. But it does have a lot of funny things you can build and a lot of information. And yeah, for some of you, these things will be fun. But anyway, here we have it. And we'll start off up here. So resistors, which I'm gonna assume you know what it is, but it's like a little blob thing. I've done a video explaining what a resistor is. Let's zoom in. So the first symbol here is a resistor. It's done by a zigzag line like that. And usually you will have a number or a value written, and it will say something like R10 or 100k, you know, something simple. And the next one is a potentiometer with a little arrow. You can see how they're basically the same symbols. And yeah, that's usually how you see it. Sometimes it's not an arrow, it's just a line connected. I've seen that as well. And the next one is a ceramic capacitor. It's just showing the spacing, and it's because of how, you know, the electrodes move. We're not going to go into that, or at least I don't think we're going to do it. But it's basically, you know, a stop. You can think of it like that. The next one here is an electrolytic capacitor. Now, if you look at electrolytic capacitor, you will see that they have a line on one side that is the minus side. And that's the difference between them, because some capacitors you just put in, and some you have to be really careful with in what direction you put them. Sometimes there isn't a plus and it isn't bowed. It basically looks the same as this one, but you'll have one line be thicker. And yeah, it's just a little bit of a difference, but it's the same. This is more of a standard symbol, I would say, but it all depends a little bit on where you are and things like that. Then we have a diode symbol like this. And that's because the diode is moving in one direction. It can't move in the other direction. So it's like an arrow showing you can go in that way. But if you go in that way, it's a stop. So arrow pointing and the stop. Super easy. Hopefully you understand. And the next symbol here is for a LED, which is just a circle with 3 little arrows. And that is also pretty common that you see that way, but sometimes you just see that symbol and it will say LED underneath, like LED. But there you have the two different symbols. And in, for example, guitar pedals, sometimes you can change these out. You might have that symbol there, but you can put in LEDs because they're the same thing. It's just one of them will light up. Next symbol here is for op amp, just showing what is going where. And the next one is for a switch, a SPST switch. It's just basically an on-off. Same thing goes here. Here's a DPDT switch, and you can just see the connections. If you've seen any of my pedal videos where I build pedals, or if you've seen any of my videos or if you've seen the video where I talk about switches, you can recognize this symbol very easily, as you have the 3 pins. You know, the switch that I spoke about, that I have here somewhere. It's like a double. You can see how the legs line up. That makes more sense if you've already seen the video. But the last one down here is for a 7-position rotary switch. And you can just see how the middle one is selected to any of the other legs. The symbol is basically just a drawing of how it functions, the mechanical function. Isn't that much to say about it, really. And it's not something you're gonna see that often in pedal building. To be honest, I don't know if I've ever run into it. Here's a push button, and it's the same. You can sort of understand the symbol, because if that one gets pushed down, it will connect to those two. Connecting wire, alternative version. Yeah. Non-connecting wires. All of these are just very simple. Alternative version, it's just showing basically that, you know, you have 2 wires in your circuit and one is on top of the other, you know, so it's like they're not connected because they're just over. And then we have several batteries. This is also one of those symbols that is like, I doubt that this one will, you know, show up when you're building something, but maybe it will. This one will, and it's actually really important. This is one of those things that I think some of you are getting confused by, I think, because you're like, where are all the grounds going? And it's like, well, this I'm following this signal and it's just disappearing into whatever this is. That's ground. It's just saying like, hey, this is going to ground. So when you see this symbol, it's going to ground. This one I never encounter, but it's basically grounding to the box. Usually you'll see this and it will be written like box or enclosure or something, you know, it's, yeah. Same thing with this one. It's also one of the symbols that, you know, you're not gonna in pedal building see that often. And it's for a transformer. Obviously it depends on what you're building, but anyway, good to know, maybe, I suppose. And here's the little speaker and a little headphone. The headphone one I never see. Usually it's just the speaker, and you know, you decide for yourself if you can actually go to a speaker or not. And then you have symbols like these, just showing them real quickly, that you will also run into. You know, you'll see the legs like this, and you'll have the notch, which shows the orientation, and then the numbering. There you have the symbol, for example. Just showing you some of the symbols. Yeah. Let's find a schematic here and take a look at it. Something not overly complicated. I think you should start with something that is fairly easy. Okay, so here we have a schematic. Just to take a little bit of a look at it. This is for a treble boost, so if you are interested, you could always copy this and build yourself a treble boost. But let's just take a look here. For example, we have the input here, and we have the output here. We have the IC here, and we can look here and see that the IC is one of these down here. You can use an NE5534. You could use an LM1556 and so on. And then we can see here, for example, here we have diodes. And when you see diodes in that orientation, it's the clipping usually, because they're going like that. And usually they're going to ground, but I don't see a ground symbol. But yeah, maybe this is supposed to be the ground. And they're going into these two electrolytic capacitors right here. You recognize the symbols from before. And then they're going in to this IC. Here we have a resistor. And here we have another electrolytic capacitor and another capacitor, another resistor that is being connected over here to this resistor and this capacitor, going in to the chip leg 2. You have leg 1 being connected to leg 8 through a capacitor. You have leg 6 being connected to a capacitor and back up to this capacitor. This is an electrolytic capacitor, so the -1 is getting connected to this resistor that goes to this resistor's minus as well, or the ground. And yeah, let's take a look at another one as a real quick little overhaul. Here we have a schematic for a noise gate, and I'm just showing it real quickly so that you can, because I know I'm gonna build a noise gate at some point, because that's what some of you want me to do. And I just want to show you real quickly, just it looks really confusing, you know. Like for example here, you have a symbol for the ground. See? Resistor going to ground. Diode, you know, going in that direction. Two diodes going in opposite direction with a ground in the middle. Here's a transistor with a ground. They didn't really show that symbol there. The flat with 3 pins sticking out with 1 arrow. That symbol there for the transistor. It's kind of that's weird. Why isn't transistor here? Transistor is really important. I didn't think about it because I just went through these super quickly, sort of on autopilot. But yeah, I forgot about that, and now I see it. That symbol right there, the thick line with like a Y and the little arrow, that's a super important symbol to learn. You can see here, you take a closer look at all these things, and you can sort of tell, like, oh, for example, here is a capacitor that will go to ground and go into here, and it goes to ground through a resistor. When you break it down and you look at it every step of the way, you start with the input and you just go, whoa, then it will be easier for you, is what I'm trying to say. Let's find another one for you to look at. Okay, so here is another one, and yeah, just take a look at this. Pause the video here for a moment and just take a look at it and try to follow the signal. Like, here is your input, and you have a ground going into the enclosure. You can see the symbol right here, and it goes in. First thing it hits. Can you see what that is? Do you remember the symbol? What is that symbol? And what is going afterwards? This one is even more simple because you have the values written as well. So you can see like C3 here. You see the value right there. You see R7 and you see the value right there. So you get a little bit of hints on what these things are. And hopefully it's, yeah, like what is that? R410K. What could that possibly be? There's a little bit of an arrow. So this one is a little bit different than, for example, that symbol or that symbol there. You know? But I think that if you just, you take some time and you look at schematics and you just follow. You find the in, you find the out. You can follow the overall shape of it. You can see the different symbols. Like, for example, like 5 on that is going to something. What could that symbol mean? Well, that's the end of this video. I hope this helped you and that you got, you know, your foot on the ground and that you're feeling a little bit better about this. I want to say you don't have to learn these symbols immediately, you know, out of the gate. You can have a cheat sheet put together. You can probably find one on Google and print out or something like that, or save to your phone, and just look at that whenever you're looking at something and trying to figure out what it is you're looking at, and just go slow, and you will slowly start to see patterns and how to do things just by doing it. I understand that you might feel the need to know everything before you even start, but just take something simple like a fuss face, for example. Just look at the schematic and you'll figure out what part needs to be connected where and what needs to go to ground and what will go to lead, and then just build it and have fun. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, look at it again and see where you maybe got confused and connected something the wrong way around, and see if you can fix it. And by making mistakes, you'll learn even more, I promise. So don't be afraid to do that. And these symbols will slowly creep into your head, and before you know it, you look at a schematic and you just see. And the next step after that will be to look at a schematic and knowing what it sounds like. I'm not there yet, by no way. I know that there are people who build pedals for a living and that you can look at a schematic and they can tell you like, oh no, R7 needs to be switched out for a higher value because it's going to affect the mids, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and I wish I was there. That would be super cool if I could build things that way. But I can't. I can only look at a schematic and follow along with it and hope that things turns out good. And you don't have to know everything immediately, is what I'm trying to say. So just start off having fun, building things, having fun, trying things out, messing things up. It sucks when you burn all your components and you have to buy new ones, but that's just the cost of learning by doing. And hopefully you're having fun along the way. It's super rewarding when you finally manage to build something. If you build something and it breaks, you have to replace parts, you have to fix it, you have to mess around, and then you finally get it to work. Super rewarding. It is super frustrating when it doesn't work, but then to finally get it to work and be able to let that project go and just be, you know, super rewarding, I promise you. So, go and build something. And also, don't forget to stay awesome and cool. And as I've already said, go and build something. Use this video if it helped you to learn a little bit. Take a look at a schematic and just see if you can follow along. if you can just see the patterns of where the signal is going and where it's splitting off and where it's turning into ground and where it's going, and have fun. That's the most important part. Have fun.